I call the May 4th, 2015 regular council meeting to order. If you could please turn off your cell phones and put them on silent, that'd be great. Flag salute. Linda, could you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Silent roll call has been taken and a quorum is present.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April 6, 2015 regular council meeting, the April 15, 2015, and April 21st, 2015 special council meeting?
I'll make that motion. So
Stan,
second it.
Stan, Carol, second. Discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. It was Stan and then Carol. Petitions, communications, and citizen requests. This time, is there anyone from the audience that would like to come up and discuss an item that is not on the agenda? We are going to have Brooke Gardner come up and just speak to the council for a few minutes. She is on item number 7. She's going to talk about that, where that is on the consent agenda. This will give her a chance just to speak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brooke Gardner. I'm a pastor, recently moved in the area. I grew up in the old town and went to high school here. We're going to be doing an event called Convoy of Hope. They had it in Bangor on the waterfront last September. So basically, it's a ministry from out of town in Missouri. They come up with a huge tractor trailer worth of $30,000, groceries, non-perishable foods. We do free haircuts. We'll have a baby zone, a kid zone, clothing, dentists, local dentists to come in and do fillings for people and everything. So it's a community event. My name's not even really on it. It's basically getting the community together and just pour out hope for people, having local job agencies come forth and try to do some job placement for people that need that, and give them a haircut, the clothing for the interview, and let them go. So just encouraging the whole town, and so that's what I'm here for, to help whatever needs to happen. So.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you're going through the proper channels as far as the permits and everything, so
Everything's all set.
police and fire, they know about all this and will be working with you and stuff.
Absolutely.
How many people are you thinking?
Well, I'll be organizing about 250 volunteers. Last time we had about 6,000 people show up on the Bangor waterfront.
Oh.
Yes. So they cleaned us out as far as all the groceries. It was a huge partaking. So yeah, we ran out of food. We had everything organized though. So I don't know as far as Old Town how that will work, but there will be the same time we'll have there'll be a Convoy of Hope in Bangor in 10 different locations throughout the state of Maine.
On the same date?
On the same day,
Okay.
September 19th.
Okay, so people from Bangor won't be coming
They
up
won't be,
here.
yeah. They have their own spot. Basically, I'll be focusing on Old Town, the island, Milford, just surrounding areas. Yeah, so we won't get the Bangor crowd.
I have a feeling you'll be dealing with Chief O'Malley and Chief Wilcox too during this time.
Yes, yeah, I met him too, so yeah, definitely.
Any questions for Brooke?
Sounds wonderful.
That is great.
I'm really excited to work with Old Town and really just help a lot of people here, so
Perfect.
That's great.
awesome.
Thank you
you
very
so
much.
Thank you.
Is anyone else from the audience that would like to discuss an item? Okay. We'll move on to reports. Council President, I just want to tell everyone here that we received a card from Ray Gibolo for thanking the City Council and City Manager for taking care of some signage that was an issue a couple weeks ago. It was about a couple weeks ago.
In Public Works.
Public Works. Bill John really did the work, his guys. But we did get a thank you card from Ray and Mary Gibolo for that. Everything else we'll talk about later tonight. Standing committees. Anybody want to report on a committee meeting? Nope. City councilors. Nope. City attorney.
We did receive payment from PPAS on the biorefinery equipment that they sold for online auction. So we were able to dismiss the city's suit against them to our own sale. And I understand also
Yes. Yep. Special committees, school board liaison, city manager.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, they did contact finance today late in the afternoon. They're going to wire their payment tomorrow. Didn't really say why they didn't wire it today, but they're going to wire it tomorrow, they said. So a couple other things. The Casella is going to come to sit down with city staff to discuss their expansion. They have to do that by the host community agreement. Once they send in any type of expansion application to DEP, they have to meet with us within 30 days. So sometime in this month, they'll be coming in to meet with us, which they've already done a lot of that in the milestone meetings that we've had this fall. So I don't think there's going to be anything there. It's a surprise, but they have to come back and meet with us through the host community agreement. And the only other thing, working on the 175th anniversary stuff, you can see an example of what everyone's kind of looking at for possible lapel pins as a way to raise money here. Patty's a person who's kind of gone out there, and she's looking at these things and getting back opinions from all of us. So far that's one part of it, how we're going to go after that, and there's some other funding opportunities we're gonna try to move forward, but we'll keep you up to date, or if you have questions on any of that stuff, just let us know.
And that's on the agenda tonight, right, to approve that?
Yep.
There's a couple things, right? Is there glasses and something else, pens or something?
Yeah, I'm looking at stemless wine glasses. And also I've got Tony Sullivan working on a logo that will be on the book, and I'm hoping that we can do the logo on a keychain. So we'll have 3 different things as memorabilia, and one of 2 things. We can either just those 3 things I will recover the $5,000, or we can add to the celebration to make it that much better.
Great.
We're also planning to rework the history book, the 125
Oh,
one,
nice.
and update that and have that. So that will be another.
Great.
That's going from 1965 to the present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty cool.
Wow. Okay, any questions for Bill or the committee on that? Nice job. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. New business items number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Councilor McLeod.
Resolve the Old Town City Council hereby approves the suggested motions under new business items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 as presented. And they are, number 1, Old Town Council accepts an after deadline redemption for foreclosure property for Shannon Gallant and Daniel Baker. Number 2, City Council hereby accepts the after deadline redemption for foreclosed property for Leslie and John Bajakowski, located at 691 Main Street. Number 3, Old Town Council hereby approves a renewal application for Malt Spirituous and Spinvinius liquor license for an amusement park for Christopher Trudell and Warren Morgan. Number 4, it's an event permit for Cindy Jennings, Director of Old Town Public Library, for a special event permit for the summer concert series. Number 5, the council will approve the application for Old Town Boosters for a major special event for Smokey's Greatest Shows to be held at the Riverfront June 15th through the 21st. Number 6, the council will approve the application for Tim Caliandro, a Birmingham Funeral Home, for a major special permit for a Memorial Day parade. We honor veterans as a celebration. And the council will also approve for number 7, Brooke Gardner, for a City Reach of Old Town for a major special event for a permit to hold a Convoy of Hope for September 18th and 19th. Number 8, the Old Town Council hereby appoints the following members for 3-year terms for the LLC. They are John Birmingham, Lloyd Hall, Stu Harvey, Joe Pluff, and Ron Harriman. And that concludes it.
I'll second that.
Okay, Carol's the second. Discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. Okay, thank you. So we move on to new business item number 9. City Council will hear an update from Phil Ruck of Stillwater Environmental Engineering on MS4 stormwater. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. And dealing cards.
Oh.
There we go. Well, thank you. Some of you folks have listened to me before as far as the stormwater update. What I've given you this evening is an overview package. I've done this before with Old Town City Council. I've done a Stormwater 101. So basically that's just informational. I did not bring a slideshow, but what I want to do is highlight for you current events in the MS4 program, because there is a new normal with the regulated communities here in Maine. All of those, if I could just get a sense, I recognize many faces, but since the last time I presented to the council, who here has not heard me speak about stormwater? Okay. As you know, the city of Old Town is regulated by Maine DEP due to their population density. You're one of 4 urban areas in the whole state which is lucky enough to have to deal with the DEP as far as a stormwater management permit. State of Maine runs this program, but it is actually administered by EPA. This is a federal mandate. It is not a choice, but Old Town has been in this program since 2003, and the Maine DEP petitioned EPA way back when to run the state's stormwater program. So by virtue of the urban area we have in the Bangor region, there are 7 communities and 5 state or federally owned facilities within the urban area here. There are 12 entities in the Bangor area which have a permit with the DEP. There are only 3 other urban areas in the entire state which have to deal with this issue. That being the Lewiston, Auburn, Sabattis, Lisbon cluster, the Portland urban area, and then some communities in southern Maine by virtue of their proximity to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So there's only 4 urban clusters in the entire state that have to deal with this situation. And we're just throwing out a number. It's about 10,000 people in an urban area. Doesn't have to be within a municipality, just in an urban population. And you also have to have greater than 1,000 people per square mile in an urban density area. And believe it or not, statistically, when EPA looks at the census data, they came up with the 4 areas. This hasn't changed much in the 12 years since this program has gone on. What happens is, as I said, DEP runs the show, but EPA is essentially the mothership, and they keep their eyes on what DEP is doing. DEP has issued 3 5-year general permits for stormwater in urban areas. There's 3 different legs of the stormwater program in the state. There's a construction site runoff control permit, there's an industrial permit, and there's a municipal permit. All out of the Clean Water Act back in the 70s, but the process is a 5-year general permit. We started in '03, so we went one cycle, '03 to '08, then we went '08 to 2013, and we're just about to wrap up the 2nd year of our 3rd permit. I've been working with the city for probably about 10 years now. I used to be with another firm, and 2 years ago I opened up my own environmental consulting firm. I do more of this type of work than any other consultant in the entire state. I live in Orono, and I've been working with Old Town an awful long time doing this. Do a lot of industrial stormwater work as well. I'm a civil engineer, licensed civil engineer and environmental engineer in the state of Maine. And this is what I do. And I've had the good fortune of working with a very proactive staff here in the city of Old Town. Began with Dave White back in the day, and when John Rouleau took over for him, worked with Peggy Daigle, and I've been working with Bill quite closely the last several years. But we've made great strides in this program. The EPA and the DEP want us to look at 6 focal points as far as municipal stormwater management and pollution prevention. that being public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, illicit discharge detection and elimination, and I'll explain what these are. They also want you to look at construction site runoff control, post-construction site runoff control after the contractor leaves and the stormwater system is there to function in eternity. And lastly, they want you to look at pollution prevention and good housekeeping for what you do here in the city for municipal operations. So when you start a 5-year plan, we developed well, it was 2 years ago now, so the permit program runs July 1st to June 30th, and we developed a 5-year stormwater management plan. We've known what's coming for a while. DEP issues a permit, we respond to that, we develop our best case scenario over a 5-year permit program. We develop milestones, we establish responsible parties, we select best management practices, and we set goals as to how we're going to minimize stormwater pollution for those 6 things that I talked to you about. For instance, public education and outreach, we do an awful lot of stuff statewide. Most of you might recognize the Rubber Ducky commercials. You've seen all those? Yep. Rubber Ducky is a statewide campaign that we partnered with DEP. We also have public involvement activities coming up on the 16th. City of Old Town is going to have a stream cleanup event. It's going to be held right there in the park. We recruit citizens to come help us clean up our local area, and at the same time, we give them a message about stormwater. That's part of the mission of our DEP permit. The illicit discharge detection, basically what that means is DEP wants you to know everything there is about how the city manages stormwater. You have to know every basin, you have to know every discharge point, you have to know where your receiving waters are. So essentially, if a drop of rain hits here in Old Town, we know where that drop is going. We know if somebody dumps something nasty in a catch basin, they dump waste oil in a catch basin, we know where that's going to go. Okay? We have to understand that. We have to have really good maps as to all of these issues, and we have to understand the health of our stormwater infrastructure. Stormwater systems, as you know, out of sight, out of mind. But when you look at a city like Bangor that has systems that are over 100 years old, they have enormous wooden pipes, then they have every other option that you can, but out of sight, out of mind, and until it fails, people don't see the urgency unless things go south in a hurry. But permittees are required by DEP to maintain this. It's a very active program. So construction site runoff control, Dave and I have spent an awful long time because any project that comes in Old Town that's bigger than an acre, Dave has to go do a bunch of inspections, make sure that all their erosion and sediment controls are in place, and that they're not discharging sediments to any receiving water bodies in the city of Old Town. Haven't been many projects bigger than an acre over the last several years. But we have ordinances in place, and we have a process so that when and if that project comes, he is ready to do those inspections and take care of things. What happens when the contractors walk away? When that site is all buttoned up, the grass is grown, and the construction site is vacated. Now it becomes a post-construction site. DEP wants to make sure that every bit of that infrastructure that some engineer like me designed and somebody built, that stuff is working for eternity. It's very important. So if you look around the Bangor Mall, for instance, historically, a lot of the systems there predated some of the regulations. There's a lot of things around the Bangor Mall that are unknown to people. They're hidden in the woods. They're not maintained. Those days are over. So we need to make sure all that stuff works. Okay, lastly, we have to understand what the city does as far as municipal operations. We have to know how you sand and salt your streets, how you store that equipment. I just talked to the chiefs briefly. I'm going to spend some time with them later this week. We have to know how they respond to vehicular accidents. If there's a gasoline spill that might have the potential to get into the stormwater system, there's got to be communication with a stormwater coordinator, who is John Rouleau. We have a stormwater team in this town, in this city, that we have formed quite a while ago to make things work. It is very difficult to make this program work with one person. So John Rouleau is the team leader. We have Dave Russell. We have Steve Rideout. We have Doug Hill. Bill attends these meetings. I think I said Dave Russell. Travis attends on occasion when we need him. And the chiefs are going to be involved as well. And we've also brought in Steve Lane and, you know, the water district and the wastewater treatment folks. Everybody has a role in this program. The new normal I spoke about is the fact that DEP has been fairly easy to get along with over the past dozen years. We've had some predictability. They've been reasonable. We've developed a plan. We've proceeded through our 5-year plans, and things have been fairly smooth sailing. We've done a great job here in Old Town. But what has happened is that the EPA, again, they still call the shots in certain states. There's not many, but in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, for instance, they chose not to, the state did, not to opt to run their own program, so EPA still runs the show there. But EPA has told our regulators in the state that they need to up their game, as it were, and that EPA is poking their head around the state of Maine. They just received an audit every 3 years. EPA reviews how the Department of Environmental Protection manages a delegated program. They were told directly that they need to ramp up enforcement efforts, do a lot more as far as keeping municipalities and their regulated entities. They need to keep them in line. The DEP, we have a monthly meeting of all the regulated entities in the Bangor Area Stormwater Group. We were in this council chamber when the EPA enforcement fellow, who is actually lives in Maine, he's based just outside of Augusta. He told everybody in that room that he wanted to level the playing field, as he called it, to make sure that the delegated states like New Hampshire and Mass are having the same compliance as Maine. Odd statement in that Maine has been very proactive over the years. They've done a really good job managing some of these environmental programs, in particular the stormwater program. So that's a little odd, but that's a fact that EPA is poking their head around. This has ramped up the compliance needs and the seriousness of this program. EPA has been reasonable to work with. We have shown progress. They don't expect you to do everything at the drop of a hat. EPA doesn't respond that way. So we've worked carefully with DEP. We've been able to participate in permit development, and we've spent a lot of time as regulated communities helping to develop a program that works. John has spent a fair bit of time. I've gone down to meetings with him in Augusta, stakeholder meetings where we could comment on proposed DEP regulations. However, with EPA poking their head around and holding people to a higher standard, the new normal is that we need to do a better job. EPA visited the town of Orono a little more than a month ago. Unannounced visits, they'll give you about they'll give you 5 days. They'll tell you they're coming, and they're going to appear at your doorstep, and they're going to want to know everything there is to know about, stormwater is the foot in the door, but once they get in the foot in the door, they want to know all kinds of environmental regulatory programs, of which the city has several. Okay, that's an EPA audit. They're extremely thorough. They're going to find stuff just like OSHA, but this has ramped up the enforcement side of things. They've been to Bangor. They just completed their 3rd visit to the city of Bangor, probably about 5 months ago. Beat them up pretty bad. Bangor has asked for it because they've had other issues in the past. Nevertheless, EPA has shown up. EPA now calls the shots in Bangor. Anything that goes on in Bangor, they answer to EPA, not DEP. Okay? They have a consent decree. They're going to be asked to do much more than other communities. City of South Portland similarly has had an audit. Lewiston just had one about a week and a half ago. Auburn's next. Everything is on the table. We have been told that EPA and or DEP will be visiting all of their regulated entities in the somewhat near future. I don't know what that means, but we need to prepare for it, and the city has. Our stormwater team has been meeting quite regularly. Typically, we would meet on a quarterly basis, but we've been ramping up that effort to go through an EPA evaluation process in the eventuality, because we know it's coming, for the eventuality that EPA will pay us a visit. In preparation for that, you have a very good staff here that addresses stormwater issues, taking a proactive approach, which is recognized by DEP. under Bill's leadership and John's leadership as well of the committee. We've got a good thing going here. We have taken the proactive step at John's suggestion to invite DEP here. They're coming next Monday for a voluntary audit. This is a proactive step to figure out where, if any, holes are in our program. This worked for Brewer. I've done an awful lot of work with the city of Brewer, probably one of the best MS4 programs in the whole state of Maine. DEP paid them a visit. EPA was up next. And they told the city, well, you were just audited by DEP, so we're going to cut you some slack. Doesn't mean that EPA won't be back to Brewer, but we're actually using the same approach here in the city. So they're going to be coming here next Monday. We're well prepared. We've been doing a lot of good things here in the city. I just want to highlight a few of those in case you're not aware. The city has really stepped up their infrastructure mapping. With the GIS system. I think you know what Travis has done. He brought that system on. That system is not just for assessing. That system is instrumental for managing stormwater infrastructure and even sanitary sewer infrastructure. These two things are going to be inseparable moving forward. EPA has some serious concerns about proximity of sanitary sewer to storm sewer. They do not want those cross connections and the potential for contamination. These kinds of things, potential cross connections, combined sewer overflows, illicit discharges, are all very serious issues. And the GIS tool that Old Town has adopted, we're going to be expanding that to manage all of the parts of this MS4 program. So we have environmental plans for the CDD landfill. Casella runs the transfer station now, so they actually manage that part. We have environmental plans for the airport. We have environmental plans for public works. We have things going on over at the wastewater treatment plant. All of these are going to be managed to an extent using this GIS program. It's a great way to go about a lot of environmental data management. It's an outstanding tool. The city staff now have electronic, I left my phone back there, but we can collect all of the environmental data, do inspections. If Bill has to go out on a site, he can take his phone or his mini tablet, goes out on site. All of this is electronic. There is more paperwork as a part of this permit program than you can ever imagine. But it's time to move beyond that. The city has taken steps to do that. We have a number of mini tablets and cell phones. All of that data can be collected on a phone. When Dave goes to a construction site, he can open up an app on his phone, fill out an electronic inspection sheet, take a picture of that site, sign the bottom on his phone with his finger, file it electronically. I don't want any municipality, if a regulator has to show up, I don't want anybody to be scrambling for paperwork. If you look like you know what you're talking about with environmental data management and program compliance, that's going to go a long way as far as, you know, greasing the skids or making that audit go smoother. So we're setting up a network drive. All the department managers in the city will have access. All of our data will be managed using that system. So if a regulator shows up and wants to meet with Bill, Bill can show him the maps. He can show him public works inspections. He can show him what's going on at the treatment plant. We don't have to scramble around for paper. We're actually moving away from all the paper copies, and that's a good thing. So the direction that the city's going is very good. Not saying that EPA is not going to find stuff. Not saying that DEP might not find anything either. But there's been some tremendous progress in the short term. I do want to stress, I mean, this is all well and good. We know where, you know, a lot of our issues are. It takes a lot of municipal staff time and expense to do this. I'm a consultant. I help guide the ship. I hire engineering interns. We do some inspections. I have an engineering student from UMaine starting next Monday. And you're going to see him, you look for an orange vest, somebody poking a rod down a catch basin, that's our guy. He's going to be collecting. We have to inspect every single catch basin in the city of Old Town every year, and if it needs maintenance, we have to vac them out. So all this stuff is required. It's not optional to maintain your infrastructure. It's a mandate. So failing systems. We popped every rim last summer We developed a prioritized list of high, medium, and low infrastructure repairs. We've given that to Public Works, and that's part of the budgeting process. With DEP, they have been lenient. They have allowed us to develop, if you show you have a plan, you don't want to wing it. You know, you need a plan and a prioritized approach to how you're going to deal with stormwater management fixes. This stuff costs a lot of money. John, what was the per basin cost that we talked about? $8,000 or something like that? A complete basin repair is $8,000. There's basins that need to be fixed here in the city. We have a prioritized list of what we hope to do, so we're going to have short and long-term goals. This is expected. DEP will ask, EPA will ask. EPA is a little more forceful. They're coming in with the enforcement mindset, and they've told DEP to adopt that same mindset. It is the new normal. So when I'm talking about changes that you might see, or even requests by city staff, this is what towns are dealing with. Lisbon is one of the 2 newest communities in this permit program over the past year. The census data indicated that they had enough people in that town adjacent to Lewiston, Auburn, and the tiny town of Sabattis to bring them in this program. So they're starting from scratch, and it's an eye-opener. People ask, why is City of Augusta not in this program, and the town of Milford or Sabattis, why are they in? I don't have a good answer for you other than the census data don't tell them they have to be in. This isn't a choice. EPA statisticians are sitting there in Washington and they're telling there's 30 communities in the state which are in this program. Old Town's one of them. Once you're in, you're not getting out.
Wow.
So, I mean, state or federal facilities, we have the largest percentage in the state, but so Maine Air Guard is regulated. They're entirely in the city of Bangor. UMaine Augusta Bangor campus, they're in. Eastern Maine Community College, they're in. Dorothea Dick Center, where DEP offices are on Hogan Road, they're regulated. And the University of Maine is also in this program, in this urban area. So there's 12 of us. We meet as a stormwater group. You've probably heard a little bit about that, the Bangor Area Stormwater Group. We've been meeting every month for 12 years, and we talk about stuff that we can do as a group. It is very difficult for one municipality to go it alone. When we first started this process a long time ago, that was the initial approach, but we realized really quickly that a regional approach to doing some of these things is pretty much the only answer. The media campaign is one of those options. Doing education and outreach on a regional scale and even statewide is a much better way to do it. But there's all kinds of things on this permit program. Me sitting here talking to you this evening is part of an awareness plan for municipal officials. That was one of the newer items in this permit, is that we have to address municipal officials and get you up to speed. So every time there's a new council member, there's likely going to be an addition in your packet for new members. You don't have to come listen to me every single time, or I don't have to come preach to you, but we do need to keep all the new council members up to speed. Dave and I presented to the planning board November, I believe. Yeah, November of last year, to update them is what's going on. The stormwater team that we've developed of department heads keeps all those folks in line with what we're doing. Like I said, the chiefs get to listen to me about how their programs or their departments have to interact with the stormwater program, as this is all expected. There's my Stormwater 101. The slides cover a little bit more detail. I went a little bit of different direction this evening because of the urgency with the EPA issues that we're facing.
You covered a lot, though, on this. I was going down through it. You covered a lot of the items.
That's usually my Stormwater 101, but I wanted to go into some things. Again, this is fairly recent. I mean, a lot of these audits that EPA is doing are fairly recent, but South Portland got beat up. Portland got beat up. EPA went to York. Lisbon, Lewis, I mean, that whole cluster, the 4 entities, they are on EPA's radar. I wouldn't be surprised if every one of them got an EPA audit this year.
Wow.
Old Town's done a great job, and we're going to continue to do things. but it takes time and a lot of staff effort.
The only question I'd had, and you already answered it, was about the maps, but you said with Travis's thing that's really kind of taken care of that type of thing.
It's essential. We have, and we're right in the thick of this now, we have a lot of different consultants involved, through the history. We have a lot of Sewell maps. We have some CES maps where I used to work. We have some Wright Pierce maps for the sanitary sewer. We have a lot of different paper copies, a lot of different old copies. That isn't good enough anymore. So to manage these systems, the electronic tools that are available now would blow you away as far as what you can do in managing data. If there's an illicit discharge, if Chief, if you were in an accident and there is a gasoline spill that goes into the city's catch basin system, and we have an electronic app, which I haven't spoken to him yet, so this is a little foreshadowing, but we have an app that you can track all that data, a report goes immediately, John and his crew would be alerted so that everybody is contacted as a result of any illicit discharge. The reporting, DEP is in the loop as well, and it all goes smoother.
Wow.
If there's sanitary sewer, there's certain things that we know in the next permit cycle coming up in 2018, from all reports, the state of Maine will be faced with a permit in development that EPA has developed for the state of Massachusetts that would curl your toes. There's a lot of things. Right now we go out and we do dry weather inspections to look for a discharge point. So we'll go down to the river. You have a couple over there, storm drain systems collect and discharge. We'll go down during dry weather and take a look. If we see a flow, we've got to determine what that is. Maybe it's groundwater, maybe it's a sanitary sewer line. In years to come, we're going to have to test every single one of those during a rain event, and that costs money.
Mm-hmm.
And when you determine there's an illicit discharge, you've got to deal with it. That one of the 6 focal points I talked to you about: illicit discharge detection and elimination. You got to find it, you got to get rid of it. And that can be a significant effort. But that's what we're tasked with. Those are the expectations, and we're going to do the best job we can to keep in compliance. But there's a lot to it. And it involves, as I said, a lot of different departments. But we have a good program here, and we're moving ahead with that.
Great. No, that's fantastic. Any questions, Phil, Stan?
Besides repairing the catch basins, do we have any other things that are coming that would be fairly expensive to us?
Very good question. There's some simple simple as far as fixes. Erosion control is a big deal. So we've got just the grading plans, culvert stabilization, those are typically a little easier to do. But every year there's a number of them, depending on what type of winter, what type of flows we have. So there's always going to be the erosion control, and that's going to be an annual basis. Infrastructure, storm drain failure, depending on the age. What we do know, and I'm going to bring this up now, is as a result, I'm not calling it climate change. I'm not going there. But what we do know is that based on all data, we have a lot more intense rainstorms than we used to. There's no arguing. I don't know what the cause is, but there are more intense rainstorms that those storms are taxing our stormwater infrastructure. So culverts that were sized years ago aren't sufficient to deal with some of the storms we get now. I saw a guy from U.S. Geological Survey at a conference about a month and a half ago. He said that over time, the intense rainstorms over they've been collecting rainfall data for about 50, 60 years, he said. They've increased over 70% since the weather data has been recorded. So whatever the cause is that doesn't really matter. It's a fact. You can measure rainstorms over time and know that we get really short, intense rainstorms. That creates heavy flows, and our culverts can't handle it. So if we determine that over time, and I've heard a lot of communities are developing those long-range goals. We know it's coming. We don't know when or how long, but you need to start thinking about these things. And even the replacement of just aging infrastructure that's due to failure. The proactive approach, or the more proactive approach, is a little bit more, preventive maintenance and dealing with things a little bit ahead of time, having that regular maintenance schedule, rather than reacting to catastrophes, those types of things. And that's the mindset. I mean, municipal dollars are scarce. Everybody knows that. Every town I work with, it's the same everywhere. But at some time, we do have to develop a strategy or that mindset, knowing this is coming over the long haul, and figure out a way to address that. And it's not an easy problem, but it's something that councils have to be aware of.
Right. Great. Thank you. Any other questions, EJ?
How do the industrial and commercial sites in the city play into this audit that's going to happen next week?
This audit is only for municipally owned, and I'm just going to back up. The MS4 program, EPA's got a zillion acronyms, but it's the entire stormwater system that is owned and operated by the city. So it's ditches, the gutters, the basins, all that stuff. This has nothing to do with private sites that are discharging to the city system. They actually have their own, and I mentioned 3 legs of the stormwater stool, I guess: construction, industrial activities, and the municipal side. I do a lot of industrial work too. Those permits apply to, it's primarily manufacturing. So I can think of just a handful here. Casella's system at the transfer station, we have a stormwater pollution prevention plan. There's a permit that the city used to actually operate. The fellow just passed the airport road, or the public works, Folsom's. Yeah. Activities like that, if you have like concrete plants, those types of things, manufacturing facilities, they fall under the industrial program.
Okay.
If you don't have exposure to stormwater, you don't need a permit, but you've got to make that case. So you do have industrial facilities here in the city. They have their own permits. We're concerned with this program about municipally owned, separate storm sewer systems.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Be happy anytime you have a question, just give me a holler, and I'll work for you folks.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very informative. Okay, we'll move on to item number 10. The City Council will consider the sale of a portion of city property as shown as on Assessors Map 23, Lot 32, to Martin and Tracy for Werder of 29 Sewell Drive. This parcel measures approximately 58 feet by 78 feet, 4,524 square feet. The forwarders will be responsible for the surveying of the property, deed description, and the recording of the deed in the registry, any legal expenses, and for any and all other costs associated with this transaction. Councilor Nuttall.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby agrees to sell a portion of city property as shown on Assessor's Map 23, Lot 32, to Martin and Tracy Furwerda of 29 Sewell Drive in the amount of $2,500. This parcel measures approximately 58 feet by 78 feet, 4,524 square feet. Actual dimensions will be verified in the field by a licensed surveyor and reflected accurately within the deed. The Furwerdas will be responsible for the surveying of the property, deed description, the recording of any deed in the registry, any legal expenses, and for any and all other costs associated with this transaction. The City Council further authorizes the city manager to execute said sale.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Carol, discussion? I think Dave.
Dave Russell, Code Officer. I met with the forwarders last year, kind of looking at this. They have also been in contact with the Elks Club to finish off a portion of that. They've been maintaining that embankment for quite some time. They're looking to put a garage in, and this would kind of facilitate them being able to meet the rear setbacks. As I said, these are approximate dimensions. Whomever does the survey, it'll be mapped out in meets and bounds, so we'll have an accurate, but it's going to be approximately that 1/10 of an acre.
Okay. And you're all set with this?
Yeah, I spoke with the city assessor, Travis Roy, and that was a figure that he came up with for a value based on our our current assessed values.
Okay. Any questions for Dave? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All those in favor? None opposed. Moving on to item number 11. City Council consider granting an easement to Mr. Thomas Shanos, property owner of 266 Main Street, or his assigns to enable them to construct an outdoor patio area for dining. Mr. Shanos or his assignees will be responsible for any and all costs associated with recording the easement. Councilor Peterson.
Resolved, the Old Town City Council hereby grants an easement to Mr. Thomas Shanos or his assigned on a portion of the city property adjacent to 266 Main Street as shown on Assessors Map 26, Lot 1, as depicted in Exhibit A. The actual dimensions will be verified in the field and reflected accurately on a lease agreement. Mr. Shanos or his assigns will be responsible for any and all costs associated with the recording of the easement in the Penobscot County Registry of Deeds. The council further authorizes the city manager to execute said easement.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
John, discussion? Dave?
Dave Russell, Code Officer. This is something that we've been discussing. I think it's even been brought to the council in past years when Thomas owned the building. He still owns the building, but he has sold the business to the gentleman that ran it, Yanni, for years. They're trying to capture the summer months that we have by having some outside dining area. I did pass out just
We have a
before the
map, right?
meeting.
Yep.
If you look at it the way I'm looking at it, with the building being in front of you, the only way you can enter an exterior patio area, if you can read building, then you get it in the right direction.
Oh. Thank you.
I didn't mean to be facetious. For this type of outdoor patio, the only way you can gain access is by going within the building and then enter into this patio area. As you're looking at that, the 4-foot and the 9-foot section, that actually will have a wall of approximately 8 to 10 feet to be the back bar area. There will be some plumbing for their sink area, which will run immediately into the building in that corner. It's going to be a 2-level kind of area with, if you look at, you can see where it talks about steps going up around, that's going to be a raised area around the perimeter. And basically the middle area that we're looking at is where the cedar trees are now.
Oh, okay.
In that little square.
Yep.
They have left out enough space so that we can retain access to the fire hydrant. And this is, as I say, it's going to be a seasonal aspect, but they're looking to capture the many events that we have coming up this summer, and they've lost some ability to use their second floor due to the state fire marshal wanting them to sprinkle the building for that. So I think this will be a way to
Kind of makes up
both
for it,
enhance their patronage, but also maybe afford them some capital to get that sprinkled for the winter months.
Right.
And again, John and I have been in conversation with them for a couple of years. We went over again today and kind of roughly laid it out on the ground. There is a potential, if you notice, that he might be able to come out another 4 feet, so it would be 30 feet along in the Main Street corridor.
Oh, okay.
Patty?
Did they mention what type of fencing they're gonna put? That'll be a requirement from,
That will be the requirement through through the liquor licensing agency, the state. We were talking about that today, and we're looking at Boom House. They have
They
the
don't-
outdoor patio. There's
fence, do they,
no
Boom House?
barrier. And I don't know if the simple requirement is you can only access it by going into the, into the
Oh,
business.
maybe that's
it still
why.
has to have a barrier, and this is.
Some kind of physical barrier so you can't wander in and out.
Riverfront Pub is the same
There's a
way,
fence.
even though it's
There's
on
a
a
fence
deck,
around it.
there's still railing around it, so that's considered a
It is
barrier.
pretty easy.
That's
It's
correct.
pretty
Right,
permeable.
ingress and egress has to come directly from.
From the building.
Okay. Any questions for Dave?
I have one, because I've read this several times, but what does it mean, easement for Mr. Thomas Shantos or his assigns?
Thomas owns the building. Yanni is bringing this proposal to us And as the owner of the business, he would be his assign.
Okay.
Because Thomas owns the building and stuff.
Yeah.
Thomas
Yeah.
didn't actually bring this to us, although he did the first couple times around.
So the gentleman that's asking for this doesn't own the building?
He
Doesn't
does
own-
not. He owns the
He owns the
business.
business.
Itself.
So if the business or if the building is sold, does this permit and everything go with that as well?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Dave?
I'm curious how Bill feels about this.
I think it's, in looking at this, I mean, this is not the first time that, as Dave said, that they've come here to do this. It certainly gives them an opportunity to gain back some dollars. They went into that upstairs thinking that they didn't have to sprinkle all that, and now they do.
Because they were using the upstairs for a period of time.
Well, they still can,
Yeah,
they
they
just
can.
can't have any dancing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, no, they've been closed.
Oh, they've closed it?
They can't use
State,
it at
the
all.
state's not allowing them to use it, period, anymore.
Okay, until it's sprinkled. Okay.
The state kind of
Identified it, said-
changed horses midstream on this,
Right.
unfortunately.
So this will give them an opportunity for some extra revenue and stuff.
I have another question too.
Yes,
Chief.
sure.
The possibility of this ever becoming a permanent feature? I mean, using it in the winter and those,
No.
that's not what this is for. It is just for,
It is definitely seasonal, spring, summer, and fall. If it were to ever be something that they would consider permanent, they would have to purchase the property. Then there's a whole host of other items
Okay,
with
that's what I
infrastructure
wanted to-
under the ground and foundation work, and this is basically a patio. It's going to be a floating wooden patio, two-tiered.
Any other questions? Dan, do you have another one?
I'm just curious, how come it doesn't specify what it's to be used for in the easement?
Do you want that written in?
Well, if you grant them just a straight easement, can they use it for anything that they want to down the road?
That's a good point.
very good point.
How would you like that worded?
I would ask the city attorney to word that.
That's it. That is a good question.
Eric?
The purpose of an easement is in the easement itself. You have to have some language. You can't, if you give someone an easement, don't say what it's for, there's no context to it. So whatever list of uses you send me, I'll make sure it's.
Just make sure it's in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Yep.
perfect.
Better.
Give you a view easement or a road easement or a sewer easement or, there are all sorts of easements out there, but until it's actually in the document what it's for, it doesn't convey any rights.
Right, okay, so you'll take Dave, you'll give him what he needs.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? None opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 12, the city council consider authorizing the finance director to transfer funds from fund balance and establish an account to be used for the city's 175th anniversary celebration, and further authorize the city clerk to approve the expenditures. Council McLeod.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby authorizes the finance director to transfer $5,000 from account number 03800 fund balance to the newly established account number 45600, 175th anniversary celebration, and further authorizes the city clerk to approve the expenditures.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Carol, discussion, we've kind of already talked about that, we saw the pictures and stuff. Okay, all those in favor? None opposed. Item number 13, the city council will consider discussing the council qualifications language prepared by the city attorney, which will require a change to the city charter through a referendum election. This item was voted upon by the Administrative Services Committee to recommend approval to the full council, but the motion failed 2-2. Council McLeod made a motion to move this on to the full council for further consideration.
I'd like to make a motion to the council that we move this forward with approval, council qualification language prepared by the city attorney.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Carol's second for discussion purposes. So motion, Linda. Carol second. Discussion?
Are we gonna hear from him first?
Oh, I didn't even see you there.
I'm here in case there are questions. I'm not presenting the item, just in case you have questions.
I mean,
Well, I mean, what you have written, from what I have read, it's not completely what I would like, but it is something that I believe that the city of Old Town would vote for, and it takes no, anything away from anybody who wants to run for the council. Since we're representatives of the entire city of Old Town, I'm not sure how many people on the council have heard from people as far as the conflict of interest was concerned. But that was one of the things, while I was listening to people, that was one of the biggest concerns they had. In fact, I even got a letter in the mail that was anonymous, by the way, that was very concerned about that. And I wanted to make sure I could bring it forward to the citizens of Old Town to vote on.
thank you. Anybody else? I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but for me, I'm voting for this to send it to the voters. Will this be, if this gets approved, will it go on this upcoming election? Will it make this one?
No, it won't
I
make
don't
too
think,
long.
no, we don't have time.
No.
It would be November.
So that have to be the November election? So I'm voting for it just because I feel the citizens should be making this decision, not the six of us. So that's why I'm going to vote in favor of it. Anybody else? All those in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-2. Okay. The city, moving on to item number 14, the city council review and consider approval of a draft decision in order concerning the dangerous building proceeding for the property at 614 Main Street, Old Town, Maine. Council Roach.
Resolve the draft decision and order of the city council concerning the dangerous building proceeding for the property at 614 Main Street is hereby approved as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Linda, discussion. Who's Eric?
If you have changes to the order, that's fine. You can make those this evening. So you would simply need to reflect as amended in your final motion. But this is your opportunity to make some change to this. If you think the findings don't have everything in there that you wanted, we certainly can add additional findings. This is based on the guidance and the discussion at the last meeting. If I've gotten it wrong, please correct me.
Has everybody had time to read this?
Mhm.
Can't do it?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
bet. To me, it looked fine.
Follows what we asked.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? Anybody? Bill, you're all set with it, right? Okay. All those in favor? None opposed. Last item on the agenda, the city council consider going into executive session for the purpose of consulting with the city attorney for the city's legal rights and duties pertaining to the Red Shield bankruptcy proceedings. Councilor Nuttall.
Resolve, the Old Town City Council hereby approves going into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title 4056E for the purpose of consulting with the city attorney, the city's legal rights and duties pertaining to the Red Shield bankruptcy proceedings.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Linda, discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? I'm showing 7:58. Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll go into executive session.